They sat by the phone, didn't they? Waiting. They checked their messages, expecting to see your name pop up. They waited for the apology that was never going to come. See, they had this whole script written out in their heads. In their version of the story, you were supposed to fall apart without them. You were supposed to be lost, confused, wandering in the dark, desperate for their light to guide you back home. They thought they were the oxygen in your lungs. They thought they were the ground beneath your feet. But then hours turned into days, days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into silence, dead silence. That's when the panic started to set in for them, isn't it? Because the script, the one they wrote where you come crawling back, begging for a second chance, it didn't happen. Instead, they looked up and saw you standing. Not just standing, but rising. They expected you to sink like a stone in the ocean, but you learned how to swim. And that scares them more than anything else in this world. You ever look at them, really look at them, and wonder why they held on so tight? It wasn't love. Don't kid yourself. It was control. They needed you to need them. It fed their ego. It made them feel big, made them feel powerful, knowing that your happiness, your stability, your very life depended on their approval. They clipped your wings, feather by feather, and then convinced you that you didn't know how to fly. They told you the sky was too dangerous. They told you that you were too small, too fragile, too weak to face the storm alone. And for a long time, you believed them. You played the part. You walked in their shadow, grateful for the shade. But then something snapped. Maybe it was a lie they told. Maybe it was the disrespect. Or maybe you just woke up one morning, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize the person staring back. You realized that the cage wasn't locked. It never was. You just had to push the door open. And when you did, when you finally walked out that door, they laughed. Oh, they laughed. They told their friends, give it a week, he'll be back, she'll break. They bet on your failure. They sat there with their popcorn, waiting for the crash. But you didn't crash. You didn't stumble. You adjusted your collar, looked at the horizon, and you started walking. And you kept walking. You showed them that their absence wasn't a death sentence. It was a liberation. See, they thought they were your anchor, holding you safe in the harbor. But they weren't the anchor. They were the chains holding you down while the tide was rising. And now that you've cut those chains, you're floating, you're moving, and they are stuck in the same miserable spot where you left them. That's the funny thing about people who need to be needed. They are parasites. They feed on your energy, your potential, your light. And when the host finally detaches, the parasite starves. Look at them now. Are they happy? Are they thriving? No, they're bitter. They're confused. They're telling everyone who will listen that you changed. Oh, he's arrogant now. She thinks she's better than us. Let them talk. Let them whisper their poison in the dark. It doesn't reach you up here. You know the truth. You didn't change into something bad. You just stopped being useful to them. You stopped being a battery for their ego. And to a user, a tool that stops working is useless. But you are not a tool, you are a weapon. And you just realized your safety was on the whole time. You walked through the fire they set, thinking it would burn you alive, but you didn't burn, you were forged. You came out the other side made of steel. They look at you now, and they don't see the person they used to manipulate. They see a stranger, a dangerous stranger, because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more dangerous to a manipulator than a person who is happy alone, a person who finds peace in solitude. Because if you can be happy alone, they have nothing to offer you. They have no leverage. They can't dangle love like a carrot on a stick. Because you grow your own food now. You don't need their scraps. You feast on your own success. They thought you were weak because you were kind. That's a mistake a lot of people make. They mistake silence for submission. They mistake patience for weakness. They thought that because you gave so much, you were empty inside, but they didn't realize that you gave because you were overflowing. And now that you've directed that flow back into yourself, look at what you've built. Look at the strength you've found. It was always there, buried under their expectations, buried under their insults, buried under their constant need to keep you small. But you dug it out with your bare hands. You clawed your way out of the grave they dug for you, and you stood up, dusted off the dirt, and smiled. That smile, that's what haunts them. If you had screamed, if you had fought, if you had sent angry texts, they would have loved it. It would have proved they still had power over you. It would have proved you still cared. But you didn't scream. You didn't fight. You just became indifferent. And indifference, my friend, is the ultimate insult. It's saying, you don't even matter enough for me to hate you. You are a ghost to me. You are a bad memory that is already fading. That kills them. It eats them alive from the inside out. They sit there analyzing your every move, stalking your social media, asking around about you. They are obsessed with the person they threw away. And you rarely even think of them. You're too busy building an empire, too busy leveling up, too busy becoming the person they said you could never be. The world is full of people like them, emotional vampires, energy thieves. They look for the bright ones, the kind ones, the ones with big hearts. And they latch on. They drain you until you're a husk. But you're different. You survived the draining. You refilled the tank. And now you run on a different kind of fuel. You run on spite. You run on the pure, unadulterated joy of proving them wrong. Every success you have is a slap in their face. Every time you smile, it's a dagger in their heart. And the best part is, you aren't even doing it for them anymore. At first, maybe you were. Maybe at first you worked hard just to show them. But somewhere along the way, you fell in love with the process. You fell in love with the new you. You realize that needing people is a trap. Wanting people, loving people, that's fine. That's healthy. But needing them, depending on them for your self-worth, that is slavery. And you just broke your chains. They thought the cold would kill you when they kicked you out into the night, but you built a fire. They thought the silence would drive you mad, but you found clarity in the quiet. They thought you would starve without their validation, but you learned to hunt. You are a predator now, not in a malicious way, but in a way that takes ownership of your life. You don't wait for permission. You don't ask for forgiveness. You take what is yours. You carve your own path through the jungle, and if someone wants to walk with you, fine. They can keep up, but you will never, ever carry anyone on your back again. You drop the dead weight, and suddenly the climb became easy. You looked up at the mountain that seemed so high when they were dragging you down, and you realized it wasn't a mountain at all. It was just a hill, and you are standing at the top, looking down. Don't let them rewrite history. They will try. They will try to come back. Mark my words. When they see you shining, when they see you winning, the texts will come. The calls will come. I miss you. I was thinking about you. Can we talk? They'll come with their tails between their legs, acting like nothing happened, acting like they didn't try to destroy you. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can open the door. You can let the vampire back in. You can give them another chance to bleed you dry. Or you can remember the nights you cried yourself to sleep. Remember the feeling of worthlessness they planted in your chest. Remember the disrespect. And you can look at that phone, look at that message, and delete it. No response, no explanation, just silence. Because you don't need them. You never did. You were the prize. You were the gift. And they were too blind, too stupid, and too arrogant to see it until it was gone. Now, you belong to the road. You belong to the grind. You belong to the future. They are stuck in the past, replaying the glory days, wondering where it all went wrong. But you know where it went right. It went right the moment you realized you were enough, all by yourself, broken, scarred, tired, but enough. More than enough. You are a fortress, and they are just standing outside the walls, scratching at the gate, realizing they lost the keys. And the best part, you changed the locks, so keep walking. Don't look back. There is nothing there for you but ashes and dust. Look forward. Look at the life you are building. Look at the peace you have earned. They thought you needed them. They banked everything on that one fact, and you showed them the only truth that matters. The only person you ever needed was you. And now that you know that, now that you really truly know that deep in your bones, you are unstoppable. Let them watch from the sidelines. Let them regret. You have work to do. You see, the work doesn't stop just because the point is made. That's the mistake the average person makes. They get a little bit of revenge. They get a little bit of success, and then they stop. They think the finish line was proving them wrong, but you know better now. Proving them wrong wasn't the finish line. It was just the starting gun. Now the real race begins. And in this race, you are running against yourself. You are running against the version of you that used to tolerate their disrespect. That version is dead, buried deep in the soil of your past, and you have to make sure it stays dead. They are watching you from the distance now. Can you feel it? They are scrolling through your life on a screen, squinting at the light you emit, trying to find a crack in the armor. He's faking it, they whisper. She's just pretending to be happy. They tell themselves these lies to sleep at night because the alternative is too terrifying for them to accept. The alternative is accepting that they were the problem, that they were the anchor dragging down a ship built for speed. And now that the anchor is cut, the ship is disappearing over the horizon. They are left in the wake, tossing and turning in the waves you created just by moving forward. Let's talk about that independence. Real independence. It's not just about paying your own bills or walking alone. It's mental, it's psychological. It's the moment you walk into a room full of people and you don't scan the crowd looking for a friendly face. You don't look for someone to validate your presence. You walk in and you are complete. You carry your own atmosphere with you. You don't need their laughter to feel funny. You don't need their compliments to feel beautiful. You don't need their agreement to feel right. That is a level of power that makes weak people uncomfortable. They sense it. It's like a vibration. When you don't need them, you become unpredictable. And as we said before, unpredictable is dangerous. Do you remember how hard you tried to fit into their box? You contorted yourself. You broke your own bones just to fit into the shape they wanted you to be. Be quieter. Be less ambitious. Don't dream so big, you'll just get hurt. They dressed their jealousy up as advice. They called it being realistic. But you know what reality is now. Reality is what you make it. Reality is the empire you are building brick by brick with the stones they threw at you. Every insult, every doubt, every time they left you on red, every time they rolled their eyes at your goals, you took that energy. You didn't let it poison you. You let it fuel you. You turned their hate into a nuclear reactor inside your chest. And now you have infinite energy. And the saddest part for them is that they could have been a part of it. They could have been there on the mountaintop with you if they had just been loyal, if they had just believed. But they chose the cheap thrill of betrayal. They chose the momentary satisfaction of putting you down. They traded a diamond for a handful of dirt, and now they have to live with that trade forever. Don't pity them. Pity is a waste of your emotional resources. Save your energy for the climb. The air gets thinner up here. It gets colder. Not everyone can breathe at this altitude. That's why you're alone. Not because you are unlovable, but because you have ascended to a place where they cannot survive. Eagles don't fly with pigeons, and lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. You showed them you didn't need them, but more importantly, you showed yourself. That was the real test, wasn't it? Deep down, in the darkest part of the night, you were scared. You wondered if maybe they were right. You wondered if maybe you were nothing without them. That fear is natural, but you faced it. You looked into the abyss of loneliness, and you realized it wasn't an abyss. It was a blank canvas, and you held the brush. You painted a life of discipline, of focus, of unwavering self-respect. You learned that the company of your own thoughts is better than the company of fake friends. You learned that a solitary walk in the morning is worth more than a crowded party at night. And now comes the phase they really aren't ready for, the acceleration. See, when you are carrying dead weight, you move slow. You have to stop and rest. You have to negotiate. But now you are streamlined. You are aerodynamic. Your growth in the next year will dwarf your growth in the last 10. They will look at you and say, "You changed. You're different." And you will look them in the eye and say, "I didn't change. I just stopped pretending to be less than I am to make you feel comfortable." That is the dagger, because their comfort was always dependent on your suppression. They felt big only when you were on your knees. They felt smart only when you played dumb. They felt successful only when you were struggling. Their entire self-image was built on your back, and you stood up, and their world collapsed. It's funny how memory works. They will try to rewrite it. They will tell people, "I helped him. I was there for her when no one else was." They will try to claim credit for your strength. They will say the hard times they put you through were lessons they taught you on purpose, as if they were some kind of wise teacher. Don't let them. They weren't teachers. They were obstacles. You don't thank the hurdle for the jump. You thank the legs that cleared it. You don't thank the fire for the sword. You thank the blacksmith who hammered it. And you are both the sword and the blacksmith. You hammered yourself into shape, strike after strike, night after night, when no one was watching, when there were no cameras, no applause, just you and the grind. That is why you don't need them, because they don't know the grind. They want the glory, but they don't want the guts. They want the view from the top, but they don't want the bloody hands from the climb. You have the bloody hands. You have the scars, and those scars are your credentials. They are the proof that you survived, proof that you don't need a savior. You saved yourself. So when the world tries to tell you that you need a team, that you need a partner, that you need their approval to be valid, you laugh, because you know the secret. The strongest team is a man and his purpose, a woman and her vision. Everything else is secondary. You walked away and you didn't look back like Lot's wife in the Bible. Looking back turns you to salt. It freezes you. It kills the momentum. You keep your eyes forward, focused on the next target, the next mission, because life is a series of missions, and you were stuck on a side quest with them, a glitchy, broken side quest that offered no reward. Now you are back on the main path, the path of destiny, the path of greatness, and the path is narrow. There isn't room for them on it. There isn't room for their drama. There isn't room for their doubts. There is only room for you and the immense potential you carry. They thought you would beg. Think about that. They really thought that you would debase yourself, that you would trade your dignity for their attention. How little they must have thought of you. How small they must have seen you. That is the ultimate insult and the ultimate motivation. Every time you feel tired, every time you want to quit, remember that they are waiting for it. They are waiting for you to stumble so they can say, I told you so. I told you he couldn't make it without me. Don't give them that satisfaction. Starve them. Starve them of your failure. Feed them nothing but your success. Force feed it to them. Make it so big, so bright, so undeniable that they choke on it. You are the storm now. They used to be the rain that ruined your day, but you grew, you expanded, and now you are the hurricane, and they are just leaves blowing in the wind. You control the weather of your life. You decide when the sun shines. You decide when the thunder rolls, and you have decided that the forecast is victory every single day. Victory over the past, victory over the pain, victory over the need to be needed. So let them stay where they are, stuck in the mud of their own mediocrity, talking about the good old days. You don't have good old days. You have better days ahead. You have a future that is so bright it burns their eyes to look at it. They thought you needed them. God, how wrong they were. You needed to lose them. That was the only thing you actually needed. Losing them was the key that unlocked the handcuffs. Losing them was the medicine that cured the sickness. You are healthy now. You are strong now. You are free. And freedom, true freedom, is dangerous. It's wild. It's lonely at times, but it is real. No more masks, no more scripts, no more begging. Just you standing tall, walking away into a future that belongs entirely to you. Walk, just walk, and let the sound of your footsteps be the only goodbye they ever get. They're paying the price for how they treated you, and it's not something you orchestrated. It's not something you planned or wished upon them. It's simply the natural consequence of their actions catching up with them. You see, when someone treats a good person poorly, when they take advantage of kindness and mistake gentleness for weakness, the universe has a way of correcting that imbalance. And right now, that correction is happening in their life in ways they never anticipated. When you were with them, they had it good. They had it really good, but they couldn't see it. They were so focused on what they could take from you, so focused on how they could benefit from your presence, that they never stopped to appreciate what they actually had. And now that you're gone, and now that your warmth and your care and your support has been removed from their life, they're realizing just how cold the world can be without you in it. You treated them with respect. You treated them with patience. You treated them with a level of understanding that most people will never experience in their entire lifetime. And what did they do with that treatment? They threw it back in your face. They made you feel like you were asking for too much when all you wanted was basic decency. They made you feel like your standards were unreasonable, when really you were just asking to be treated like a human being with feelings and needs. And now they're experiencing what it's like to be on the other side. They're experiencing what it's like to give and give and give and receive nothing in return. They're experiencing what it's like to be overlooked and undervalued and taken for granted. The same energy they put out into the world is now coming back to them multiplied, and they don't know how to handle it because they never had to deal with this kind of treatment before. They always had you there to cushion the blow. They always had you there to make things easier for them. You were their safe place. You were their comfort zone. You were the one person they could always rely on no matter what. And they treated that gift like it was nothing. They treated your loyalty like it was guaranteed, like it was something they were entitled to, like you owed them your dedication simply because they existed. But loyalty is earned, not owed, and they never put in the work to earn what you so freely gave them. The people around them now, the people they've surrounded themselves with since you left, these people don't care about them the way you did. These people smile in their face and talk behind their back. These people pretend to be supportive, but secretly hope for their downfall. These people are only around for what they can get, and once there's nothing left to take, they'll disappear, just like morning fog when the sun comes up. And they're starting to realize this. They're starting to see through the fake friendships and the shallow connections. They're starting to understand that what they had with you was rare. It was genuine. It was real in a world full of artificial relationships. But that realization has come too late. That understanding has arrived after the damage has already been done. And now they're stuck in a cycle of superficial interactions that leave them feeling emptier than before. Every night when they lay down to sleep, their mind drifts back to you. Their thoughts wander to the memories of how things used to be, and they're flooded with regret. They remember the times they dismissed your concerns. They remember the times they made you feel small. They remember the times they chose their ego over your feelings, and those memories haunt them. You have become a ghost in their mind, a constant reminder of what they lost because they couldn't recognize value when it was standing right in front of them. They try to distract themselves. They try to fill the void you left with new people and new experiences and new pursuits, but nothing works. Nothing compares to the genuine connection you offered them. Nothing matches the authentic care you provided. And no matter how hard they try to replace you, they keep coming up short because what you brought to their life cannot be replicated by just anyone. The treatment they gave you, the dismissiveness, the lack of appreciation, the emotional unavailability, all of that is now being reflected back at them through every person they encounter. They're being ignored like they ignored you. They're being taken for granted like they took you for granted. They're being made to feel invisible like they made you feel invisible. And they don't understand why this keeps happening to them. They can't connect the dots between their past behavior and their present circumstances. But you understand. You see clearly what they cannot see. You recognize that this is simply cause and effect, playing out in real time. You planted seeds of love and kindness during your time with them, but they planted seeds of neglect and disregard. And now both of you are harvesting what was sown. Your harvest is peace and growth and forward movement. Their harvest is chaos and stagnation and constant disappointment. The financial stability they once had is crumbling. The security they felt in their career is shaking. The confidence they had in their future is wavering. Everything that once seemed solid in their life is now showing cracks cracks, and they don't have the emotional support system to help them through it, because they pushed away the one person who would have stood by them through anything. You would have been there for them during hard times. You would have helped them find solutions. You would have been a pillar of strength when everything else was falling apart. But they didn't value that. They didn't appreciate having someone in their corner who genuinely wanted to see them succeed. And now they're facing their struggles alone, with no one to turn to who actually cares about their well-being. The loneliness they feel is profound. It's a deep, aching emptiness that follows them everywhere they go. They can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone, because none of those people know them like you knew them. None of those people understand them like you understood them. None of those people accepted them with all their flaws like you accepted them. You saw the good in them, even when they couldn't see it in themselves, and they repaid that vision with mistreatment. And now they're questioning everything. They're questioning their choices. They're questioning their judgment. They're questioning whether they'll ever find someone who will love them the way you did. The answer to that question is probably not, because what you offered was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love. It was patient and forgiving and unconditional in ways that most people are not capable of giving. They had something precious, and they treated it like it was ordinary. They had something rare, and they acted like it was common. They had something valuable, and they behaved like it was worthless. And that's the tragedy of their situation. That's the source of their current suffering. The knowledge slowly dawning on them that they let something irreplaceable slip through their fingers because they were too blind to see what they had. The way they treated you was a reflection of their own inner turmoil. It was a projection of their own insecurities and fears and unresolved issues. But that explanation doesn't excuse the behavior. Understanding why someone hurts you doesn't mean you have to accept being hurt. And you were right to walk away from a situation that was draining you more than it was filling you up. Your departure was the wake-up call they needed but didn't want. It was the reality check that forced them to confront the consequences of their actions. And that confrontation has been brutal for them. It has stripped away all the illusions they had about themselves and their behavior. It has shown them exactly who they are when the mirror of your presence is no longer there to reflect back a better version of themselves. They're trying to change now. They're trying to be better. But the motivation is wrong. They're not trying to grow because they genuinely want to become better people. They're trying to change because they're suffering the consequences of who they were, and growth that comes from a place of self-interest rather than genuine self-reflection rarely lasts. It rarely transforms someone at their core. It's just a temporary adjustment until the pain subsides. The people they've hurt before you, those people are probably watching this unfold with a sense of validation, because you weren't the first person they treated poorly. You weren't the first heart they broke with their carelessness. You were just the latest in a pattern of behavior that they never bothered to address. And now that pattern has finally caught up with them in a way they can no longer ignore. Their reputation is suffering. People are starting to see them for who they really are. The mask they wore so carefully for so long is slipping. The charm that once opened doors for them is fading. The charisma that attracted people to them is dimming. And what's being revealed underneath is not pretty. People are distancing themselves. Opportunities are drying up, and the social capital they accumulated through manipulation and surface-level charm is being depleted. You might hear things about them through mutual connections. You might see glimpses of their life through social media or shared acquaintances. And what you see will confirm what you already know. Their life is not going well. Their circumstances are deteriorating. Their world is getting smaller while yours is expanding. And this is not coincidence. This is consequence. This is the natural result of the choices they made and the way they treated you. The universe is teaching them a lesson they refuse to learn. When you try to teach it gently, you gave them chances to correct their behavior. You communicated your needs clearly. You expressed your hurt and your disappointment in hopes that they would hear you and make changes. But they didn't listen when the lesson was being delivered with love. So now they're learning it through pain. Now they're understanding through loss what they couldn't understand through conversation. Every person who disappoints them now is a reminder of how they disappointed you. Every broken promise they receive is an echo of the promises they broke to you. Every time they're let down, it mirrors the countless times they let you down. And they can't escape this cycle because it's a direct reflection of the energy they put into the world. It's the karma they created coming back home to roost, the sleepless nights they're experiencing, the anxiety that grips them when they think about their future, the depression that settles over them when they realize how far they've fallen. All of this is part of the price they're paying. You didn't wish this upon them. You didn't curse them or pray for their downfall. You simply removed yourself from an unhealthy situation and let nature take its course. And nature is unforgiving when it comes to the mistreatment of good people. The universe has a way of protecting those who have pure hearts, and it has a way of correcting those who abuse that purity. You were protected by your decision to leave. You were blessed the moment you chose yourself over someone who would never choose you. And they were cursed by the absence of your light in their life. The people they're attracting now match their energy. They're drawing in others who operate from a place of selfishness and manipulation, because that's the frequency they're broadcasting. Like attracts like, and until they genuinely change who they are at their core, they will continue to attract people who will treat them exactly how they treated you. There's a certain justice in that. There's a certain balance in watching someone experience exactly what they made others experience. It's not about revenge. It's not about satisfaction from their suffering. It's about the recognition that the universe operates on principles of reciprocity. What you give out comes back to you. What you put into the world returns to you multiplied. Your kindness is returning to you in the form of better relationships, more peaceful circumstances, and a sense of inner calm that comes from knowing you did nothing wrong. Their unkindness is returning to them in the form of broken relationships, chaotic circumstances, and a sense of inner turmoil that comes from knowing they had everything and threw it away. The comparison between your life and theirs is becoming more stark with each passing day. While you're healing and growing and moving toward a brighter future, they're stuck in a loop of dysfunction and disappointment. While you're attracting people who appreciate you, they're surrounded by people who will eventually abandon them just like they abandoned your trust. And they know this. Somewhere deep inside, they know that they're the author of their own misfortune. They know that their current circumstances are a direct result of how they conducted themselves in their relationship with you. But admitting the truth would require a level of self-awareness and accountability that they've always lacked. So they continue to blame external factors. They continue to play the victim. They continue to avoid looking in the mirror. The price they're paying isn't just in their external circumstances. It's in their internal state as well. They're paying with their peace of mind. They're paying with their sense of self-worth. They're paying with the gnawing feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with how they move through the world. And that internal payment is often more painful than any external consequence. You might wonder sometimes if you should reach out, if you should check on them, if you should offer the compassion that's naturally in your heart. But you know that going back would only reset their lesson. It would only delay the growth they need to experience. It would only give them another chance to take advantage of your good nature without ever truly appreciating it. The kindest thing you can do for both of you is to stay away, to let them learn what they need to learn, to focus on your own healing and your own growth. Your presence in their life would be a crutch that prevents them from developing the strength they need to stand on their own. Your return would interrupt a process that they desperately need to go through. And you deserve better than to be someone's safety net. You deserve better than to be the backup plan they return to when everything else fails. You deserve to be someone's first choice, someone's priority, someone's greatest treasure. And as long as you keep yourself available to those who have proven they don't value you, you block the blessings that are trying to make their way into your life. The treatment you accepted before has taught you what you will not accept in the future. The pain you went through has clarified your standards and strengthened your boundaries. The experience you had with them has prepared you for the relationships you truly deserve. Every tear you cried was not wasted. Every moment of confusion and hurt was not in vain. It all served a purpose in shaping you into the person you're becoming. While they're paying the price for how they treated you, you're collecting the rewards for how you've treated yourself since leaving. Self-respect pays dividends. Choosing yourself generates interest. Walking away from what doesn't serve you creates space for what does. And you've made deposits into your own well-being that are now maturing into a life you can be proud of. They never thought you would actually leave. They never believed you would follow through on your statements about needing more. They were so confident in your attachment that they never considered you might detach. And that arrogance is part of what they're paying for now. The assumption that you would always be there no matter how they treated you. The belief that your love was unconditional to the point of tolerating disrespect. But you showed them and yourself that your love does have conditions, that your presence is not guaranteed, that your loyalty has limits. You showed them that a good heart doesn't mean a weak spine, that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat, that caring about someone doesn't mean accepting anything they do. And that lesson, that powerful demonstration of self-worth, has echoed through every area of their life since. They're different now than they were when you left, but not in a good way. The confidence they once had has been replaced by insecurity. The certainty they once felt has been replaced by doubt. The optimism they once projected has been replaced by anxiety about what's coming next. Their downfall has been gradual but steady, a slow erosion of everything they built, much of which was built on the foundation of your support. Without that foundation, the structure of their life has become unstable. Walls they thought were solid are showing cracks. Rooms they thought were secure are flooding. The whole building is shifting in ways that make them question whether it can stand much longer. And they realize now, too late, that you were load-bearing. You were essential. You were the element that made everything else possible. The treatment they gave you wasn't just wrong, it was self-destructive. By hurting you, they were hurting themselves. By pushing you away, they were pushing away their own best chance at happiness. By taking you for granted, they were guaranteeing their own future of being overlooked and undervalued by others. They just couldn't see it at the time because they were too focused on their own ego to recognize the consequences of their actions. But consequences don't care about whether you recognize them or not. They arrive on their own schedule regardless of your awareness. And the consequences of how they treated you have arrived in full force. They've set up residence in their life. They've made themselves comfortable in every corner of their existence. And there's no evicting them until the lesson is fully learned. You probably feel a mix of emotions when you think about their situation. Part of you might feel vindicated, part of you might feel sad, part Part of you might even feel guilty for feeling any satisfaction at all. But all of those feelings are valid. All of them are human. All of them are understandable, given what you went through with this person. The important thing is that you don't let their downfall consume your attention. You don't let watching them struggle distract you from building your own happiness. Their story is no longer your concern. Their journey is no longer intertwined with yours. Their lessons are theirs to learn without your involvement. You've played your part. You've exited the stage, and now you're free to write a new story without them in it. The price they're paying will continue to accumulate as long as they refuse to genuinely change. It will keep adding up until the weight of it forces them to their knees in real acknowledgement of their behavior. And maybe one day they'll reach that point. Maybe one day they'll truly understand what they did wrong and why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. But that day is not your concern. That transformation is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility now is to yourself, to your healing, to your growth, to building a life that reflects your worth. The price they're paying is a natural consequence that requires nothing from you. It will proceed with or without your attention. It will unfold regardless of whether you're watching. So focus your energy on what you can control, on what brings you peace, on what moves you forward. They treated you poorly because they didn't know any better, but they could have learned. They could have grown. They could have chosen to become someone worthy of your love. Instead, they chose stagnation. They chose ego. They chose the temporary comfort of not having to change over the lasting reward of becoming a better person. And now they're living with that choice. Now they're experiencing the full weight of that decision. Every moment of regret they feel, every tear they shed in private, every night they spend wishing things were different. This is all part of the price. And you can have compassion for their suffering while still recognizing that it was self-inflicted. You can feel empathy for their pain while still acknowledging that they created it. Compassion doesn't mean you have to rescue them. Empathy doesn't mean you have to intervene. The treatment you received at their hands has shaped you in ways both painful and valuable. It has taught you what red flags look like. It has shown you your own strength. It has demonstrated your capacity to survive and thrive despite adversity. Those lessons, bought at a high emotional cost, are now serving you well as you navigate the world with new wisdom and new clarity. And while they're paying the price for how they treated you, you're reaping the benefits of how you responded to that treatment. You chose growth over bitterness. You chose moving forward over staying stuck. You chose yourself over someone who would never fully choose you. And those choices, made in moments of pain and uncertainty, have led you to a place of greater peace and possibility. The universe sees everything. It records every act of kindness and every act of cruelty. It keeps a perfect accounting of what we put out into the world. And the balance is being corrected now. The scales are being adjusted. The ledger is being reconciled. Their debt is being called in while your investments are paying off. Their account is being debited while yours is being credited. This is simply how it works. This is the natural order of things. This is the price that must be paid for treating good people badly. You didn't set this system up. You're not responsible for administering it. You're simply a witness to its operation in someone else's life. And witnessing is enough. You don't need to participate. You don't need to add to their suffering. You just need to observe and continue on your own path. The road ahead of you is clear and bright, while theirs is cluttered with obstacles of their own making. The future waiting for you is full of potential and promise, while theirs is overshadowed by the consequences of past actions. means. The people coming into your life will value you appropriately while they continue to attract those who will treat them exactly as they treated you. This is the price. This is the payment. This is the cost of taking a beautiful soul for granted. And while you never wanted it to come to this, while you would have preferred they learn their lesson through love rather than loss, this is the path they chose. They chose the hard way. They chose the painful way. They chose to learn through consequence what they could have learned through communication. The thing about paying a price is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single payment that clears the debt and allows them to move on. It's an ongoing extraction that touches every part of their existence. And they're discovering this now. They're learning that the consequences of mistreating you are not a one-time event, but a continuous experience that colors everything they do and everything they try to build. Every morning they wake up and for a brief moment they forget. They forget that their life has fallen apart. They forget that they pushed away the best thing that ever happened to them. They forget that they're now surrounded by people who couldn't care less about their well-being. But then reality crashes back in. The weight of their situation settles on their chest, and they have to face another day knowing that they did this to themselves. You used to be the first person they thought of when they woke up. Not because they appreciated you, but because they were already planning what they could get from you that day, already calculating how to use your kindness to their advantage, already strategizing how to keep you close enough to benefit from, but far enough to avoid any real commitment. And now, when they wake up, they think of you for different reasons. They think of you with longing, with regret, with the painful awareness that they will never have access to your warmth again. The bed they sleep in feels emptier than it ever did before, even if someone else is lying next to them. Because physical presence doesn't equal emotional presence. Having a body beside you doesn't mean having a soul that connects with yours. And they're realizing that what you offered went so far beyond the physical. It was spiritual. It was emotional. It was a complete merging of your energy with theirs that made them feel whole in ways they took completely for granted. Now they feel fragmented, scattered, like pieces of themselves are missing, and they can't figure out where they went. What they don't understand is that those pieces aren't actually missing. They're just no longer being held together by your love. You were the glue that kept them functional. You were the force that made their chaos seem manageable. You were the stability that allowed them to be unstable without facing the full consequences of their dysfunction. Without you there to buffer reality, they're experiencing the full impact of who they are. And who they are, without the softening influence of your presence, is not someone they enjoy being. They're confronting aspects of themselves they were able to avoid while you were around. They're seeing clearly the ugliness they always projected onto you. They're meeting their true self for the first time, and they don't like what they see. The mirror you provided was kind. It reflected back the best version of them, the potential you saw, the goodness you believed existed beneath the surface. But the mirrors they encounter now are harsh and unforgiving. They reflect back exactly what is there with no softening filter, no hopeful interpretation, no loving gaze that transforms flaws into features. And those reflections are devastating to someone who never had to truly look at themselves before. You might wonder how someone can go so long without self-awareness, how they can hurt people repeatedly without ever stopping to examine their behavior. But some people are experts at avoiding their own reflection. They surround themselves with enablers. They construct narratives that position them as victims. They find ways to blame everyone else for the consequences of their own actions. And that's what they did with you. They made you the problem. They convinced themselves and tried to convince you that everything wrong in the relationship was your fault. But now, there's no one left to blame. The people around them now won't accept that role. They won't be the scapegoat the way you were. These people are too selfish to take on someone else's blame, too self-absorbed to carry anyone's emotional baggage but their own. And so they're left holding the full weight of accountability for the first time in their life, and it's crushing them. The relationships they're trying to build keep failing, not just romantic ones, but friendships, professional connections, even family bonds are strained beyond repair because the way they treated you wasn't unique to you. It was a pattern. It was a way of operating in the world that they applied to everyone to varying degrees. You just happened to be the one who tolerated it the longest, the one who gave the most chances, the one who believed the hardest that change was possible. Others aren't as patient as you were. Others won't put up with the manipulation and the emotional unavailability and the constant taking without giving. Others recognize the red flags immediately and remove themselves before getting too invested. And so they can't even get relationships off the ground anymore. They can't even reach the stage where someone might care about them because everyone sees through them now in ways they didn't before. It's as if your departure lifted a veil, as if your walking away made visible what had always been hidden. People who once found them charming now find them transparent. People who once were drawn to their energy now sense the emptiness behind it. People who once believed their words now hear the manipulation woven through every sentence. Their social camouflage has stopped working, and they're exposed in ways that make connection impossible. The loneliness this creates is unlike anything they've experienced before. It's not the temporary loneliness of being between relationships or the circumstantial loneliness of being new in a city. It's an existential loneliness, a fundamental disconnection from other human beings that stems from their inability to genuinely connect. And they're realizing that they never actually knew how to connect. They only knew how to extract. They only knew how to perform connection while actually just taking what they needed. You taught them what real connection felt like. Even though they couldn't reciprocate it, they felt it coming from you. They felt your genuine care, your authentic concern, your real investment in their happiness and well-being. And now that they know what that feels like, everything else seems hollow in comparison. Every interaction highlights what's missing. Every relationship attempt underscores their inability to create what you created so naturally. The worst part for them is knowing that they had it. They had the real thing and they destroyed it. It's not like they're longing for something they never experienced. They're grieving something they held in their hands and crushed through their own carelessness. That knowledge, that awareness of their own role in their current suffering adds an extra layer of torment to everything they're going through. They can't even comfort themselves with the thought that they'll find something better, because deep down they know there isn't anything better than what you offered. They can't tell themselves that the right person is still out there waiting because they met the right person and they treated that person wrong. They can't hope their way out of this because hope requires believing in possibilities, and they've eliminated their best possibility through their own actions. And so they sit with the reality of what they've done, not always consciously. Sometimes they push it down, sometimes they distract themselves, sometimes they numb themselves with substances or entertainment or empty pursuits. But in the quiet moments, in the spaces between distractions, the truth surfaces and demands to be acknowledged. They had something beautiful and they broke it, and now they're living in the aftermath of that breaking. The price they're paying isn't just about losing you. It's about losing the person they could have become if they had chosen differently. There was a version of them that was possible when they were with you, a better version, a more evolved version, a version that could have grown and healed and become someone worthy of the love they were receiving. But they rejected that path. They chose stagnation over growth. They chose ego over evolution. And now that potential version of themselves has disappeared along with you. They're stuck being who they've always been, but now without the benefits that came from having you in their life. They're the same selfish, emotionally stunted person they were before, but now their selfishness yields nothing. Their emotional unavailability protects them from nothing. Their patterns that once seemed to serve them are now clearly leading them toward ruin. The job they had is in jeopardy or already gone, because the same traits that made them difficult in relationships make them difficult in professional settings too. They can't collaborate. They can't compromise. They can't consider perspectives other than their own. And employers and colleagues have less tolerance than romantic partners. They don't give multiple chances. They don't wait around hoping for change. They simply cut ties and move on. Without stable employment, the financial pressure builds. And without financial stability, everything else becomes harder. They can't maintain their lifestyle. They can't project the image that once attracted people to them. They can't hide their dysfunction behind expensive distractions. The facade is crumbling from the outside in while simultaneously crumbling from the inside out, and there's nowhere left to hide. You used to help them with financial things, not necessarily by giving them money, but by providing stability, by being a second income, by offering advice, by helping them think through decisions. Your practical support was one of the many things they took for granted, assuming it would always be there, never appreciating how much easier you made their life just by being present and capable and willing to help. Now, when they face financial difficulties, they face them alone. The people in their life now aren't going to help. They're dealing with their own struggles and wouldn't sacrifice for someone they don't genuinely care about anyway. And asking you for help is not an option. They burned that bridge thoroughly. They made sure, through their treatment of you, that you would never feel obligated to rescue them again. The support system they once had has evaporated. Not just you, but the people who were connected to you, the friends who came into their life through you, the family members who only tolerated them because you vouched for them. All of those people have either actively distanced themselves or become coldly indifferent, no longer feeling any need to extend warmth to someone who treated you so poorly. They underestimated how much of their social capital was actually yours, how many of their connections were maintained through your effort, how much of their social life depended on your social skills. They thought those people were their friends, their network, their community, but those people were your friends who accepted them because you asked them to. And now that you're no longer asking, that acceptance has been withdrawn. The isolation they feel is complete. It's not just that they're alone in their apartment. They're alone in the world. There's no one genuinely rooting for their success, no one who would show up if they called in a crisis, no one who thinks about them with warmth and hopes they're doing well. That kind of total isolation is its own form of hell, and they're living in it every day. And in that isolation, their thoughts become their only company, and their thoughts are not kind to them. The inner voice that you use to quiet with your reassurance and affection is now loud and constant, reminding them of every mistake, replaying every moment they could have chosen differently, highlighting every opportunity they wasted to be better to you. They never realized how much your presence silenced their inner critic, how much your love made them feel worthy despite their deep-seated sense of unworthiness. You gave them a reprieve from themselves, and they didn't appreciate it because they didn't understand what it was like to be trapped in their own mind without relief. Now they know. Now they understand what it means to be stuck with only yourself when yourself is not good company. The mental health struggles that were always lurking beneath the surface have come into full view, no longer kept at bay by the stabilizing force of your love. Anxiety, depression, maybe things even more severe, all rising up now that there's nothing holding them down, and they don't know how to cope because they never developed coping skills. They just used you. They used your patience and your understanding and your willingness to process their emotions for them. They outsourced their emotional regulation to you, and now that you're gone, they have no tools, no strategies, no ability to manage what's happening inside them. The nights are the worst, the long, dark hours when sleep won't come, and there's nothing to distract them from the reality of their situation. They lie there, replaying conversations, reimagining scenarios, wondering what would have happened if they had just been different, if they had just treated you the way you deserved. And those wonderings offer no comfort because they can't change the past. They can only live with it. And so you can release any remaining anger or desire for revenge because it's being handled, because they're receiving exactly what their actions earned them, because the justice you deserved is being delivered without any effort on your part. Your only job now is to receive the blessings coming your way, to open yourself to the love you deserve, to build the life that was always meant to be yours. They're paying the price for how they treated you, and that price will keep extracting itself from their life in ways they never anticipated. But you don't need to watch. You don't need to keep track. You don't need to concern yourself with the details of their downfall. Just know that it's happening, that the universe saw everything, and that balance is being restored. Your freedom is complete, your future is bright, and everything you went through has prepared you for everything that's coming. Let them pay their price while you collect your blessings. That's exactly how this story was always meant to end.